A new geopolitical chess game in the Middle East has begun. Two tough players have jointly driven a feast of carving up Syria. Turkey has eliminated its mortal enemy, the Kurdistan Workers' Party, and now its sword is pointed at the oil fields in northern Syria and Kurdish armed forces. Israel has crushed its biggest threat, the resistance arc, and also plans to annex 3 provinces in southern Syria and the entire Golan Heights. Turkey, known as the Honey Badger, and Israel, the regional bully, are about to launch a new round of rivalry on Syrian soil. Who will be the biggest winner in the reshaping of the Middle East's geopolitical landscape? On July 16, Israeli warplanes penetrated deep into Damascus to launch an attack on Syria's Ministry of Defense. Before Saleh, the interim president, could even settle into his position, core institutions were hit by precise strikes. It is evident that Israel has no intention of recognizing the legitimacy of Syria's new regime, and this decapitation operation also served as a warning to Turkey. The cause of the incident is simple. An armed conflict broke out between the Bedouin tribes and Druze militias in Suwaida Governorate in southern Syria. The Saleh regime then dispatched troops to Suwaida Governorate, aiming to calm the situation and seize the opportunity to restore control over the province. Israel, however, intervened swiftly, directly launching airstrikes on Damascus and the Syrian interim regime's forces entering Suwaida Governorate. After the incident, Turkish President Erdogan condemned Israel's act of aggression. He also had a phone call with Saleh, stating that Turkey would not allow Syria to be divided and promising to safeguard Syria's territorial integrity. Yet beyond these statements, Turkey took no further action. In response, the Syrian interim regime's forces withdrew from Suwaida Governorate and announced the implementation of an immediate and comprehensive ceasefire. Saleh himself left Damascus, with his whereabouts remaining unknown. In this round of confrontation, Israel clearly emerged victorious. However, this does not mean Turkey will let the matter rest. Turkish President Erdogan has long nurtured a dream of reviving the Ottoman Empire and leading the Islamic world, and the current chaos in the Middle East is seen by him as a golden opportunity for Turkey's rise. Thus, while Israel was preoccupied with dealing with Iran, Turkey positioned itself as a leader in the Middle East, openly raising the banner of opposing Israel and labeling Israel a terrorist state. Why does Turkey harbor hostility toward Israel? The key reason lies in an irreconcilable conflict between the two countries, one that could even trigger a war between them in the future. As we all know, the Middle East is home to numerous unstable groups, among which the Kurds are the most powerful. After the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, the Kurds missed the chance to establish an independent nation-state and ended up as an ethnic minority scattered across the border regions of Turkey, Iran, Iraq, and Syria, with a total population of approximately 30 million. For decades, the Kurds have been pursuing independence. In particular, the Kurdistan Workers' Party, PKK, within Turkey has been engaged in anti-government activities in southeastern Turkey since 1984, repeatedly clashing with the Turkish government forces and becoming a mortal threat to Turkey. However, this situation changed this year. After the Turkey-backed Sham Liberation Organization overthrew the Bashar government, Erdogan took the opportunity to step up efforts to crack down on the PKK armed forces hiding in northern Syria. The Syrian interim government also launched attacks on the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces, SDF, within its territory. Caught in a two-front assault, the PKK could no longer hold on and announced its self-dissolution in May this year. With this, the conflict between the Turkish regime and the PKK finally came to an end. Yet this does not mean the Kurdish threat has been completely eradicated, as the Syrian Kurdish armed group, the Syrian Democratic Forces, SDF, still maintains an independent military presence in Syria and has not disbanded. Moreover, they have occupied oil fields and grain-producing areas in northeastern Syria with U.S. support, securing stable revenue to sustain their operations. The interim Saleh regime once demanded that the Syrian Democratic Forces, SDF, be integrated into the government army, but the two sides failed to reach an agreement on the restructuring plan. Furthermore, approximately 1,000 U.S. soldiers are stationed in northeastern Syria, providing support to Kurdish armed forces under the pretext of protecting oil fields. In other words, the Kurds still hold hope for achieving independent autonomy, which also serves as a crucial means for the United States to check and balance Turkey. Now, a question arises. The Kurdish armed forces in Syria are a source of conflict between Turkey and the United States, So why are they related to Israel? The key here lies in a plan formulated by Israel to dismember Syria. Few people are aware that Israeli senior officials have long been plotting to split Syria into 4 parts: a southern region, a Druze state including the Damascus area, a Syrian state comprising 6 provinces in the north and central regions, an Alawite state along the western Mediterranean coast, and a Kurdish state in the northeast. Clearly, Israel aims to divide spheres of influence based on religious and ethnic differences, as well as the population and controlled territories of various ethnic groups, ultimately achieving the goal of divide and rule. However, such a fragmented landscape is obviously inconsistent with Turkey's national interests. For if the Kurds establish a state in resource-rich northeastern Syria, it would become another Israel. This is not an exaggeration. Imagine, the Kurds, who have long been scattered across several countries and subjected to exclusion and suppression, could only achieve statehood with the support of Israel and the United States if they succeed in doing so. In other words, they would have sufficient strength to absorb a large number of Kurdish populations and territories from Turkey and other countries. This would amount to de facto external expansion, triggering a new round of large-scale conflicts that would continuously weaken Turkey, Iraq, and Iran, with Turkey being the most affected. Turkey's economy is already quite fragile, and its eastern region serves as a crucial link connecting Azerbaijan and other Turkic-speaking Central Asian countries. In recent years, under the influence of pan-Turkism, Turkey has proposed the vision of integrating Turkic-speaking countries, aiming to forge an alliance between Central Asian Turkic states and Turkey through linguistic identity. This would enhance Turkey's status, boost its regional influence, and secure political and economic benefits, all of which align with its dream of reviving the Ottoman Empire. In an ideal scenario, Turkey could potentially become a global power that holds sway over both Central Asia and the Middle East, controls Europe's energy lifeline, completely blocks Russia, and even rivals the United States. This is Erdogan's dream. While the possibility of its realization is almost non-existent, it does not prevent Turkey from using this narrative to inspire a sense of national rejuvenation and consolidate the ruling party's domestic political foundation. However, the existence of the Kurds has always been a huge hidden danger for Turkey. If they establish an independent state, it would completely shatter Turkey's strategic vision, its eastern borders would descend into turmoil, and its ambitions to control Central Asia and the Middle East would become empty talk. Therefore, Turkey will never allow the Kurds to grow stronger. For Israel, supporting the Kurds is equivalent to replicating another Israel, which would become a crucial force in containing anti-Israel forces in the Middle East. Moreover, the Druze people in southern Syria are very close to Israel. If they can achieve independent autonomy, the subsequent Syrian regime will lose legal justification for reclaiming the Golan Heights. This would mean Israel has completely taken control of the entire Golan Heights and several provinces in southern Syria. From this, it can be seen that what Turkey wants is to control Syria and thoroughly resolve the Kurdish issue, while Israel aims to secure the land in southern Syria and foster the Kurds as a check against Turkey. If the Kurdish organizations in Syria are also defeated, Turkey and Syria could integrate their forces and move south to deter Israel, a scenario Israel is unwilling to see. Of course, we cannot overlook a key factor, the presence of U.S. troops stationed in Syria. As long as U.S. forces remain, Turkey will not dare to act rashly. However, once the United States is too preoccupied to attend to Middle Eastern affairs, Turkey will inevitably seize the opportunity to act, and at that point, a full-scale confrontation between Turkey and Israel is very likely to unfold.